We travelled north by the inland route through Burke to beyond Townsville. After nearly a week, we came to the coast, and here we look out over Hinchinbrook Island and the channels through which we'd sail to circumnavigate the island. We launched at Point Hinchinbrook, beautiful marina. Scot-free, one of the two Duncansons that accompanied us, and True Blue, the other one. The marina had a beautiful swimming pool. First day out was a shocker. No better than Westernport. We ended up motoring and found ourselves a quiet anchorage up a creek. The weather improved in the afternoon. And we settled into cruising mode. Saw our first crocodile here. Showers persisted. After a couple of days, we continued southwards on our trip around the island. Very little wind, so we carried on motoring. Great scenery. We came to this creek where we anchored for lunch, but the sandflies are so bad that we made the decision, a poor decision as it turned out, to carry on and make for Zoe Bay. This made for a very uncomfortable bash out past the 3-mile-long jetty at Lucinda. And in the event it was too rough to stop in Oakey Bay, we had to travel further on to Ramsey Bay, which wasn't too bad. The weather was much improved the next day, and we enjoyed a beautiful sail around the northern end of Hinchinbrook to Point Richards. Here we were able to get off the boats and have a great walk along the beach. But again, the sandflies kept us on the move. We enjoyed a swim in the pool at the resort. Happy hour had become quite a routine.
We've arrived for happy hour.
We took it in turns.
Not long before we were getting ready to come out, I went all the way out to Helen to there's a just
These bricks, the outside ones, mine inside ones in the cabin.
Oh no.
So,
You were
Our next move was up to Dunk Island. A beautiful day's sailing. And a beautiful anchorage. Once again we were able to stretch our legs here. We took a walk up to the summit lookout. Much clearer views than on our previous visit.
Yummy.
And plenty of time to relax. This is the scene before sunrise. On the morning we decided to sail off to Marulian.
thank you for telling me.
There's Jerry, taken from Mel's boat. And that looks like us up there.
Have fun beyond.
Mm-hmm.
A beautiful sail and a calm anchorage at the end of it. Marulian, a beautifully sheltered harbour. Another pre-dawn picture, beautiful calm, but we were about to set off on what was to be one of the most boisterous sails of the whole trip. Started off with a fine following breeze. Became fresher.
You're going fast.
Mel was finding the going fairly rolly.
Hello.
Cold. Trying to get Jerry.
Look out of the way.
Zest was fairly romping along. Down to just a double reef main by now. We decided to sail on past Fitzroy Island and anchored in Mission Bay, where it was still very windy, but we were out of that swell, so it was pretty comfortable. We enjoyed happy hour that night.
Well, it's getting this and that.
Quite high, isn't it?
It's nice and calm here though.
Worked its way forward.
Of course, after happy hour, you had to find your way back in the dark.
Mel?
Next day, we went over with Scott Free back to Fitzroy Island to have a walk up to the summit. The anchorage wasn't too bad in the morning, but became very rough later on. The summit walk was pretty exhausting. But once again, great views. Still very windy and forecast to continue for several days. This was on our trip back from Fitzroy. Just the head sails and racing along. Two days later, we left for Yorkeys Knob, just beyond Cairns, an easy downwind sail. Once the weather eased, we headed north again towards Port Douglas, heading for the Low Isles. This was a really beautiful sail.
Who's taken off?
Mel spotted this extraordinary craft. Well, we all saw it, but it went very close to him. Couldn't decide if it was a boat or a plane. It never went more than a few feet above the water.
What a fantastic sight!
Here's Jerry, True Blue. We carried the spinnaker the whole way. Got a little fresh at the end, but nothing to worry about. When we finally reached the Low Isles, we found the anchorage wasn't quite as calm as we'd hoped for, but it was still a welcome rest. The inevitable sunset pictures. We enjoyed the snorkeling here, which was surprisingly good. Quite a variety of coral, lots of little fish. The turtles were quite tame. After a couple of days we headed across to Port Douglas, where we tied up at the club marina. There's the main marina, the Mirage Marina. And we proceeded to look around the sights of Port Douglas. Great view from the top of the hill of the splendid beach there. Looking back to the marina. You could just about see our yachts in there. Down on that fabulous beach. Jerry had been suffering from his back problems and he was persuaded to try a little bit of massage from fellow yachty. Didn't seem to do too much harm.
See, one of the physiotherapists was checking it out and she was working on the...
Now we sailed north again to have a look at the Daintree River. Typical overcast weather. Once inside we found a nice calm anchorage. Next day we motored upriver to where the ferry crosses it and anchored there. Here we are blowing up the dinghy. Tourist returning from Cape Tribulation on the Daintree River ferry. Well, here's a happy little load of tourists going up the river to have a look at the crocodiles. We couldn't afford to be too worried about crocodiles as we scooted across the river and onto the rubber dinghies. We were taken for a tour on a electric powered boat, the Solar Whisper.
Various things we've seen on other days. The memory there? I hope they can.
They've got little orange legs too.
Yeah, black toenails too. Yeah. In order of size, ascending order.
So they've got names, have they?
No, not yet. Not old enough to have a name yet. Could get eaten still by a big crocodile. Not out of trouble until they're about 6. Hunted very heavily around here up until 1974. Been protected since then. I hunted. One day he'll get beaten.
Here's the biggest one we saw,
One giving him a bit of a hard
an
time.
old fellow. And here's a jabiru, or black-necked stork. Jabiru in flight.
Got no oil in their feathers, so they've got to dry their wings after they've been fishing.
We headed back downstream. And out over the bar, which was interesting. It was pretty rough going for a few minutes. We sailed north towards Cape Tribulation. Approaching Cape Tribulation, where we hope to find anchorage.
Hopefully keep going.
It was not at all comfortable behind the cape, and we quickly made the decision that we would have to return the way we'd come, all the way back to the Low Isle. Several hours of motoring, butting into head seas. After that, it was pleasant to spend a few days at the Low Isles again in much better conditions now, where we enjoyed more snorkeling. We sailed out to the outer reef at Bat Reef, but we weren't too impressed. Taking advantage of lighter winds, we left Port Douglas and sailed back towards Double Island. The anchorage here was only a short distance across from the resort at Palm Cove. And now, with a perfect forecast at last, the long-awaited trip out to a sand cay at Upolu, some 15 miles offshore. On the way out, we crossed tracks with his freighter. From on board scot-free, it looked as though we were at risk of collision. Upolu surpassed all expectations. Jerry joined us out there.
You don't have to go far. I'm just going in again before lunch.
Snorkeling in the clear, warm water was a treat. It was late in the day before we returned, getting back well after dark. A couple of days later, we went further out to another cay, Vlasov, which was even better. This was another way to visit the cays. We all went snorkeling several times a day. It was so easy in the warm, clear water. We found lots of clams, some of them quite large. We spent 3 days out here. This is sunrise. And sunset. And when we couldn't stand any more of it, it was time to head for home.